Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
Despite the passage of time and the ever-increasing pace of our lives, for many North Americans, the history and mystique of the Wild West is still a subject of great fascination. It's a bond shared between Canadians and Americans alike because the story of the West and its romantic, untamed image of the cowboys and native people who lived there is not mutually exclusive to one or the other, but undeniably intertwined. And nothing speaks to the reality of this shared history better than the story of Vernon, British Columbia's historic O'Keefe Ranch.
The interesting thing about British Columbia is it was really an extension of the American frontier. And then things began to change as it became part of the Canadian Confederation. Yeah, the O'Keefe Ranch was founded in 1867, and in those days there was a gold rush on in British Columbia. What happened is the miners penetrated far into the interior of British Columbia, and the colonial government had no way of getting food to the miners, and so the best way to do that was to encourage the cattle producers of Oregon, the Willamette Valley, to trail cattle into British Columbia. And one of those drovers was Cornelius O'Keefe, who along with his partners came through here in 1867 and liked the lay of the land, found it was well watered, good grass. And so they preempted land, the same as homesteading. They took 160 acres. Well, by the turn of the century, about 40 years later, O'Keefe had 12,000 acres of prime Okanagan land, and his partner Thomas Greenhow had a comparable amount. So they built their beautiful mansions here at O'Keefe Ranch. They had a general store to serve the public. This was the stagecoach depot in the early days, and it became a real beehive of activity.
With the introduction of the railroad and the soon-to-follow flood of Western pioneers, pressure to convert vast rangeland into productive farmland was inevitable. By the turn of the century, the sprawling cattle ranches of the North American West were being sold off one by one. Cornelius O'Keefe was one of the last to sell. Finally, in 1907, he sold much of his ranch to the Land and Agricultural Company of Canada, who then subdivided the ranch into orchard land. Despite the sale, the O'Keefe family decided to stay and carry on ranching on a smaller scale. 12 years later, in 1919, Cornelius O'Keefe would pass away. However, under the guidance of his wife Elizabeth and later his son Tierney, the O'Keefe Ranch would continue to operate as a cattle ranch until the mid-1960s. Then, 58 years following his dad's death, Tierney O'Keefe, along with his wife Betty, made the decision to open the ranch as a heritage site.
And they decided that since the ranch was the same age as Canada and it had a 100th birthday coming up, they would open the ranch to the public in 1967. And so that happened, and the family, the O'Keefes themselves, ran the ranch for 10 years. And then they sold out to the Devonian Foundation out of Calgary, who turned the ranch over to the city of Vernon, who own it now.
Since opening to the public over 3 decades ago, the O'Keefe Ranch has developed into one of the finest historical attractions in British Columbia. What makes it so is rooted in the fact that much of the O'Keefe Ranch is not a replica, but rather an authentic 137-year-old slice of Western history, whose story and the family who lived it is real, a fact richly illuminated by its well-prepared tour guides.
Welcome to the O'Keefe Mansion. This house and this ranch were started by Cornelius O'Keefe. He spent 10 years building his empire before returning to his hometown in Ontario and marrying his sweetheart, Mary Ann McKenna. Mary Ann came here at the age of 29, a young bride, to the log cabin, and had 7 children in her first 7 years there. So I'm sure she was very delighted when in 1886, Cornelius built this lovely new home for her. She had 2 more children in this home before her death at the tender young age of 49 in 1899. And Mr. O'Keefe, left with 8 surviving children, returned again to his hometown in Ontario and married Elizabeth Tierney. Elizabeth Tierney came here in 1900, a new bride of 23, but by then Cornelius is 63. So again, there is no time to waste, so they have 6 more children. But in fact, Cornelius had a total of 17 children. He had 2 children with a native Okanagan woman named Elipetza before his marriage to Mary Ann. 14 of the O'Keefe children grew up in this house. And the last son, Tierney O'Keefe, lived here until 1977. So this house is unique, well, for being built in the wilderness in 1886, but also for the fact that only one family has ever resided in this house. Because of this, we have a great deal of original detail and a century of furnishings collected by the O'Keefe family.
With the tour of the O'Keefe mansion now complete, a relaxed stroll up the ranch's boardwalk reveals even more.
This is the original log house. It was built for Mary Ann in 1877. This really quite small area was where she had her first 7 children before her move into the lovely mansion. But even for its time was really considered rather luxurious. For one thing, it's a 2-story house, and it was really quite comfortably appointed. Now the O'Keefe General Store, as I mentioned, is not the original O'Keefe General Store, but the pieces are original. The doors here, the counters inside, and many of the things that you see in here came from the Arrow Lakes General Store. Now they did have a blacksmith shop on the ranch originally, but this was not where it was located. It was actually located across the highway. We do have the original bellows and anvil and forge here from that original blacksmith shop. St. Anne's Church, the building actually began in 1886 with a subscription fund. The land was donated by the O'Keefes, and for the next several years, money was donated by settlers, and the building was erected. In 1889, the first Mass was said in St. Anne's for Christmas Eve.
Besides revealing a century of ranch life through a variety of charming static displays, including a dozen different well-preserved historic buildings and a wide assortment of rustic farm implements and machinery, the O'Keefe Ranch also offers its visitors a chance to experience live artifacts as well.
We have a rare breeds program, which we're working to preserve the domestic breeds that are now endangered. And we have about 6 or 7 varieties of sheep, all of which are listed as rare now on the Rare Breeds Canada list. We have Tamworth pigs and large black pigs, all of which are slowly disappearing. We have a large collection of exotic birds, especially the ducks. We have about 8 different varieties of ducks, all of which are very limited in numbers now. And so all of those are available for the public to have a look at.
Whether it's enjoying a live demonstration, a ride on a real stagecoach, or even a conversation with the animals, the O'Keefe Ranch is a museum designed to be family-friendly.
For parents, it's really a wonderful opportunity. They get to enjoy the things they like, but there's lots of things for the kids to enjoy. In fact, they're not that interested in the Victorian mansion, but I mean, if they can actually chase a chicken, that is an authentic experience for them. But more than anything for the kids, it's like a museum, only there's room to run, and they can wear off the energy that they have.
Operating from May to October, there is plenty to see and do on any given day at the O'Keefe Ranch. However, throughout its operating season, the ranch features special event days as well. One of the most popular occurs the first week of August.
We have a Cowboy Festival, the long weekend in August. And working cowboys from all over Western Canada come to compete in our ranch rodeo. And people love to see the real cowboys. These are the real guys. For people to see real working cowboys and realize it's not a thing of the past, it's still alive, is a very positive thing.
After spending a leisurely day at the O'Keefe Ranch, it's easy to see why this historical site earned a Provincial Attractions Canada Award in 2002.
The other thing we've found over the years is a growing sophistication on the part of the visitors. They don't want to be hoodwinked. They want to see the real thing. They don't want to be lied to. They don't want something artificial and glitzy. They want the real thing. And there's a growing awareness that places like O'Keefe Ranch are the real article.
Simply put, who needs a book when you can experience the history of the North American West firsthand, courtesy of the O'Keefe Ranch, a comfortable place for history to reside.
What we find is people come to the O'Keefe Ranch and there's an ambiance here. There's something about the place that tends to make them slow down a bit, stop and appreciate things, enjoy them. And so if we can do nothing else at O'Keefe Ranch but to make people stop and pause, maybe think a bit about their past and appreciate that there was a pace of life to it that maybe wasn't all that bad, then I think we've accomplished something.
If you have a story idea for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington, 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.